I guess if I'm gonna just kind of lay out my main critique of this argument, I don't see how God gets a pass. Like I kind of understand in your worldview how it's like, man can't do this to other men. Like, yeah, that might be consistent with Christianity, but like then you're still kind of giving God the power to do what we as anarchists would view as being immoral because he's God. And I can kind of see from your worldview why that makes sense, but like from an outsider perspective, that just kind of falls on its face.
Fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I think that if you don't trust that God is a perfect judge because you don't have that faith, it's like, well, then why would you, right? Like I can understand that, like if you don't buy into that belief because you don't have it, then you're like, yeah, why does God get a pass? I think that's a completely legitimate question to have as a non-Christian, because now I think on the flip side, there's a lot of other questions if we don't have a God and that God's not moral, because I think it's hard to ground objective morality without God. I think without God, you just end up in sort of moral relativism. It becomes not like the non-aggression principle. It becomes like the non-aggression preference, right?
I think. But yeah. So this is my point of view when it comes to objective moralities. I don't think objective morality is the same as universal morality. Like, yes, there are going to be different people in different groups that have different sets of morality, but the difference is you have your own code of morality. And yes, I'm sure there's some schmuck out there who like truly believes that it's okay for him to rape and kill and do all these things, right? But I was listening to Brett Weinstein, and Joe Rogan. They were talking on the podcast, and Brett was talking about game theory. This is something he talks about a lot, where is like the reason why humanity, like in his theory, and I tend to agree, the reason why humanity is in this positive space where, we don't go around killing everybody is because it's a net benefit for everyone, yourself included, to be good. Like from a market perspective, right? Like if you kill all of your customers, then you're going to have a hard time making profit and making wealth for yourself, as opposed to just having mutual exchange and all these things. And on the point of the faith argument, I think this is actually part of why I just never have religious debates when it comes to like whether in terms of the belief of God, because it does always come down to that. I do feel like there is this crux of Christians who, anytime an answer gets or a question gets kind of uncomfortable, they can just rely on faith. They can just say, oh, well, this is just something that I believe. And the conversation kind of stops there, because it's like, okay, well, that's like, if I believe there are unicorns, we could do 2 hours about why there isn't unicorns. And I could just at the end just say, no, I believe in unicorns. And so like when you say that, the lens of believing that, having the faith that God is the ultimate judge, I feel like that's just blindness in a sense. And I'm not trying to offend you or offend Christians, but I do kind of just feel like that's blindness. And when you compare it to like libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism, that is logical, that does have all these logical things, I just find it to be a big glaring logical fallacy. Does that make sense?
I mean, I can kind of understand where you're coming from there. Okay. I just think that, this would have to be like a separate discussion on where morality comes from and how it can be universal and I guess you said you don't believe in objective reality, but you believe in universal reality?
No. So I believe in objective morality. Like, I believe what is good and bad. You believe what is good and bad, and there's probably a lot of overlap there. But there's no true universal sense. Like it's kind of more just a competition of ideas, right? Like we as humanity all tend to have these pretty, I mean, in terms of like, okay, murder, right? Like I would 98% people, 99% people would say if I was at your house and I stabbed you, right? Like that would be wrong. Now, when you go off into like the abortion argument or like the self-defense argument, it's actually kind of interesting because that kind of divulges a lot. But like, I think the reason why we as most humans understand that is because of the same game theory, competition of ideas, like, which is very libertarian, right? Like in the market, like the reason that the best product comes about is because we've all competed and that's the best product, right? I think it's very similar with morality in a sense.
I mean, maybe, but it just depends on how you're defining morality. I guess this is where I sometimes feel like there's like, because again, like if morality just means like, doing behavior which is preferable towards the end of what maximizes survival, and maybe you could throw in human flourishing, although I think it's kind of dubious to. I think the naturalistic worldview has a big problem to overcome, which I don't even think people like Sam Harris have overcome when they try to ground things in well-being, because I don't think it's self-evident what
I will say as an atheist,
means or what it refers to.
Sam Harris is a terrible face for atheism. Like he's had some good, like, I did actually kind of appreciate the stuff with him and Jordan Peterson, but everything besides that, I can't stand Sam Harris.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you ever watched the, good Lord, how long were those? It was like 4 different debates he did with Sam Harris in a row, a couple moderated by Brett, and then the last 2 by Douglas Murray. It's like if you watch all them, you probably understand where I'm coming from, where I would kind of say I think that I think that without God, you can end up with appeals to morality, but I don't think that they can be sufficiently grounded. And there's something about libertarianism which kind of presents itself as like, this is like, we don't believe in objective judges, like a person can be a perfect judge, but we believe in a legal sense that the non-aggression principle is an objective standard, right?
Yeah, it's an objective
judge, so to speak.
Yeah, so an objective methodology, I would say.
Right, but I think to believe in any kind of concept like that, and then to believe, put it this way, I think that there's kind of a performative contradiction if we say that for someone to, like, I mean, just think about like something totally evil, right? Like committing child, molestation and murder, right? And like sacrifice. It's like it's like your reaction to that isn't to look at it and go, well, strictly speaking, from a biological, naturalist perspective, this isn't a universal behavior which is going to promote well-being and flourishment. And it's just, it's not good that people would do this. And most of us don't do it because we've just kind of like through game theory learned that like this kind of behavior isn't conducive. It's like, I mean, and it's, a lot of what I just said is kind of true, but it's like, we have a moral intuition that like we're driven to this like instinctive anger and disgust to go like, well, no, that's evil, right? And like, it isn't just like, like you made a mistake on a math test, right? Or like, I miscalculated the equations, and so I launched a rocket into space and it ended up in the wrong trajectory. It's like, we're appealing to language and norms and emotions which seem to be pointing to something beyond just like we're a clump of cells and atoms, and it's not beneficial for the clump of cells to behave this way. It's like like at that point we're not just appealing to preferable biological patterns. We're appealing to I don't know, but like on a strictly materialist biological level, it's like I feel like it's like, again, I think we're trying to be good faith here. Like I haven't taken offense to anything you're saying, but it's like, I guess to me, I feel like sometimes the argument you're presenting is like trying to have your cake and eat it too, where like you want to use kind of moral language that I don't think you've quite earned with your worldview, to say something is good or evil. Like even to like judge God, like you're judging God based on a sort of moral calculus that I don't think comes from. Again, I mean, it's not my line.
I think it's a
classic Christian apologetic line to be like, what does stardust care about what other clumps of stardust do. And I've not been compelled by any atheist naturalist argument on how you overcome that. You can say it's not preferable, but it's like, okay, but like that doesn't really do anything in the face of just apathy, right? To someone to see like, oh,
Sure.
maybe it's not preferable, but who cares? I'm just a clump of cells, you're just a clump of cells. None of this really matters.
Sure. But I mean, I look, I do think that there's an emotional component to it, for sure. Like, I do think that when you see something, whether something is right or wrong, there is an emotional component to that. I don't think it's so much that people logically think through X, Y, Z as to why they know things are wrong. But I do think you have to think like, okay, why do we have emotions? And it's because of our biology. Like, it's kind of a chicken and the egg kind of thing at the end of the day, I feel like. But I do feel like our emotions and our understanding do, from some sense, come from biology.